I can't shake that night. It's still just reverberating in every fiber of my being. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I heard a voice that said, "For such a time as this." I was wrestling with God. I mean, honestly, I'm telling you exactly what happened. I'm sure glad I did it, and it was the right thing. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I can't change yesterday. I have today. What am I going to do today? How am I going to reflect the heart of God to people that I know and people that I don't know? I want to do that every day.
We're sitting with Michael W. Smith. Michael, what would have been your first job in music? Like you're actually earning some money, I mean.
Yeah, I was in a gospel group called Higher Ground.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if you know the name Wayne Hilliard.
Yes.
Wayne and Linda, and there was Wayne and Lee and Wes Pritchard, I think he was a part of that. And oh my gosh, and we were on the road. They kind of nurtured me back to health. I had a prodigal life for 4 years and had a massive encounter with Jesus one night, and then joined that group, I think 2 weeks later, and they kind of nurtured me back to health. But that was really my first job in Nashville.
What year?
That would have been the New Year's Eve of '79 was our first show. And so for first 8 months of '80. And then a guy named Randy Cox, a publisher, gave me my first songwriting contract in September of '80. And I got paid $200 a week. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. So
I love it.
I wrote 103 songs that year, and they were awful. I mean, I was on the learning curve. But one of those 103 songs was a song called "How Majestic Is Your Name." Sandy Patty wrote. I just looked at Psalm 8:1. I'd love to write out the Psalms. I just open up the Bible sometimes and just write. And one day I just was Psalm 8:1. "Oh Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name," and all that.
And was Sandy Patty the first one that recorded it?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to talk about 20 years ago. Our generation's, let's call it, December 7th, 1941 was our kind of parents' D-Day, or there's a Pearl Harbor attack, of course, everyone knows that. But basically, September 11th, 2001 is the release date of your album, Worship.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the day the record came out. It was just slated for September 11. I mean, really the backstory of that, I've been a worship leader at Belmont Church. Don Finto pastoring. He's been my mentor for 38 years. I was leading worship for 19 years and singing songs like Place in This World and Friends and Cross of Gold and all that pop stuff. But it was not till 19 years later that I actually felt like I was supposed to do a vertical record, like a straight up worship record. And it was really inspired. It was the spring of 2001. We would have a thing in Nashville called GMA Week. People would fly in from all around the world and all around the country, and everybody would, who's got the singles and who's got the latest records, and honestly, I think I can say that, and I point the finger at myself too. I think we sort of lost our way.
What do you mean by that? Make sure we're not trying to read between the lines.
Yeah,
here.
lost our way. There was a lot of attention on who's number one and who's selling the most records. And I remember Scott McCloud wrote a book called "There's Snakes in the Lobby," and that was sort of a big thing. It's like and it just seemed to be there was a little bit of pride thing going on, and going, hey, and we all just thought, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And so somebody came to me from the GMA and expressed those same feelings, and we all had this conversation, and we all agreed, going, yeah, I think we might need to sort of have a reset. And so somebody said, what if we had a worship service, and we started GMA week out with a worship service, and would you lead that worship service? And I said, well, I said, well, let me pray about that. And I did, and I felt like I was supposed to do it. But I said, just give me a little bit of creative control, because my idea is let's have the worship service at the Ryman Auditorium. A lot of history there. We could talk about that for an hour. And I want to invite every artist to drop whatever ego they have at the door, drop it at the door, and come and sing in the choir.
My goodness.
And there were 75 people in the choir.
Wow.
And they all were Christian artists. And so we did this worship service. And honestly, there were moments during the night I thought, Jesus is coming back tonight.
Wow.
He's coming back. I mean, it just felt like the roof was going to come off. And it really, it set the tone for the week. And I did that for the next 3-4 years. We did a worship service on Sunday night to start off GMA week. Now, here's the crazy thing is 3 weeks later, I can't shake that night. It's still just reverberating in every fiber of my being. And I woke up at 3:00 in the morning and I heard a voice that said, "For such a time as this."
My goodness.
And I said, "I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it." I mean, I looked at God. I'm not doing it. I thought I was afraid what people would think because the worship thing was maybe starting to there was some people doing some worship stuff, and I'm not jumping on that bandwagon.
Okay.
And then it was like a couple weeks later when I heard it again, "For such a time as this," and I went, I'm not doing it. I was wrestling with God. I mean, this is honestly, I'm telling you exactly what happened. And then third time, a very, 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 very loud voice. "For such a time as this."
Do you believe this is something that was resonating kind of in you, or could Debbie might have heard it too? Do you think it was an external thing, or do you not even know?
I think Deb was a part of it because I kept telling her, going, "I woke up last night and I heard this voice. What do you think?" She said, "You need to pay attention to it." But the third time it was like an earthquake.
Did you agree to it at that point?
I did. I said, "All right, I'm going to do it. I'll do it."
Okay.
I'll do it. I remember, sarcastically saying something, this will probably be the least successful record of my career, but I'm fine with that. And I kept saying, okay, obedience is better than sacrifice. I feel like I'm being obedient. I don't know what people are going to do with it. What do you mean Michael W. Smith's doing this worship record? I finally said, I don't care. We're going to do it. And I got a bunch of artists and we all flew down to Lakeland, Florida at a church back then. It was called Carpenter's Home Church.
Sure. Yeah. Big church.
Yeah, big church. And it was full, it was packed.
Yeah.
And we did worship that night. We did that record. And I remember we all, Phillips Kirkendine and Amy Grant, Cindy Morgan, Wes King, there was a ton of people. And I just remember us all going back into that dressing room and going, oh my gosh, what just happened out there? And we all just started to cry.
My goodness. Okay, so let's reset for just a second. We're talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When you released your first worship album, simply entitled Worship.
Yeah.
God had to scare you half to heaven with his voice to do it. You felt like you would have been jumping on some kind of commercial bandwagon at that point. That's why you were resistant to it, maybe?
A little bit. After that third time, the more and more I thought about it, going, hey, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. This might be the easiest thing I've ever done because this is what I do almost every Sunday at Belmont. So, and my goal was to, okay, it doesn't matter who writes the song, just find the greatest, would be my opinion. What are the greatest worship songs of that time? Mm-hmm. And my opinion was Forever, written by Chris Tomlin, Above All, written by Paul Balash, and Lenny LeBlanc, and Breathe, and the only song I wrote on that record was Agnus Dei. That's the only song that I wrote on that record. But it was all these songs that there was something about all those songs that were very vertical, and we were just talking to God. This is the air I breathe, your holy presence living in me. And so. Yeah, and so then I guess the rest is history, on some level.
Okay, so September 11th is forever branded as the day of attack on America.
Yep.
And it also just happens to be the exact day of release of your first worship album.
Yes.
Okay. You had been thrust into this worship experience, and you got this album done just in time. And you were going to go promote it, but airplanes shut down, the skies shut down. So there was no promoting this, but radio grabbed this worship experience, this album, and what happened?
Well, it's quite astonishing, really, to me. I mean, the record, my opinion, again, I think was a healing record for our nation. Above All was a big song from that record. And it not only became a healing record for America, but it's found its way all around the world. I'm sure glad I did it, and it was the right thing.
So
you didn't get to promote it like you thought you would.
I actually started, I started a little bit before September 11th, and I was in Chicago the night before. I was supposed to go to Atlanta, and I just had something in my gut that I think I'm supposed to go home, so I flew home that night from Chicago.
September 10th.
September 10th on that evening.
Home.
And I had a plane in. I was getting back trying to get back to my family, and drove carpool that next day, and then was going to leave around noon or 1 to go to Atlanta and begin the rest of the week promoting the worship record. And then they were doing some construction on our home. We were living at the farm, and I just remember driving in my little red Miata. Must have been going through a midlife crisis, whatever. I was on Del Rio Pike Country Road, and Debbie calls me from the farm and says, "Hey, have you seen the news? I think some little plane has hit the tower." Really? It's weird, So I go straight to my studio, which I'm going there I'm working on this record, working on some pop songs, whatever. And I'm watching the TV, and you're going, "Oh my God!" And obviously, the rest is history. And literally, you're in shock. You're sort of like, "What's happening?" And it doesn't dawn on me till that night. I remember pulling up to my driveway in the house, going, "Oh my gosh, my record came out today." You just totally forget about a record release when you're seeing this horrific attack on our country. And and then I didn't go anywhere. We all know the sky shut down,
but God spoke to you loud enough and repetitively enough to have you do your first record album. That was a worship album, a vertical album, as you call it.
Yeah.
And that was in September. It actually released September 11th. That was 20 years ago. Tell us kind of what Worship Forever is and how it relates to the 20-year-ago album.
Yeah. Well, it was another wild idea. And I come up with a lot of wild ideas. And some of them work, some of them don't. On my team, they just run. They go, "Oh my gosh, Smitty's got a wild idea." And I just thought, and I'm a big lover of cinematic music. I've scored movies and I've done instrumental records, and so, and I just, and maybe it's just from the world's falling apart and our country's divided. It could be a lot of elements that played into me, sort of these things start spinning in my head. I got this idea in the fall of 2020. I've been doing all this stuff, and I think, gosh, I've kind of done everything, and I don't know what it was, whatever. I think it was a download. And I thought, what if we went back and recut all these songs and did them with an orchestra? And I wasn't sure it would work. And so I went to the studio one day, and so I started to pull all my files on my computer of everything orchestral, no drums, no guitar. And I started to put a little piano part and started to reimagine Breathe, Agnus Dei, Above All, Forever, with an orchestra.
Okay.
And I got excited.
Worship is such I'm so glad. I don't know if it's age, Michael. Is it just age that you went from a pop artist into loving orchestration, and you have played with lovely orchestration. We've experienced that over this summer. We just came back from Italy, all being together.
You're talking about the journey with Andrea Bocelli. Yeah. So you were one of the artists, and so.
But just the orchestration of stuff. When did that get your attention? Did you always love orchestras? And
I fell in love with orchestras when I went and saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think I might have said that on your show at one point. And obviously fell in love with Spielberg and the character Indiana Jones. But I saw that movie 28 times at theater.
My goodness.
But I kept going back. I've realized because it was the music, And then I started to study John Williams and the stuff he was writing. And then there was something about orchestral arrangements, especially cinematic, that moved me, that actually really ended up being almost a worship experience for me, although there were no words. And the power of those textures and woodwinds and horns and strings and how they can pull on your heartstrings and make you feel something that just sort of makes your knees buckle. And so that was the crazy idea, combining that emotion that comes from orchestras, and obviously me on the piano with an orchestra, with the worship thing. And I think the beauty, the one thing that's beautiful about worship is it really is. I mean, we're supposed to deny ourselves. You know, we're called to, like, hello, not only repent but to surrender.
Yeah.
And you just surrender everything that you have. So you surrender it all to Him, and worship is a real act of that. And so I think that's the beautiful thing. Obviously, I've always say worship is lifestyle. You know, you don't. It's not just what happens on Sunday morning, but what happens in your everyday life. People at the grocery store. Who are you reflecting the heart of God? But saying all that, there's something about being in a room full of people that have one thing on their mind, and they just want to sing to God, and they want to tell Him how good He is, and throw a little bit of orchestra wind behind that, and I think you have something quite extraordinary.
You saw Raiders of the Lost Ark 28 times, the orchestration of John Williams. He did a lot of the Star Wars stuff. I'm not sure what this says about me, but I saw Nacho Libre 28 times, and I really wanted those eagle powers. And so I
That's
just,
funny.
what I want to mention to you, first of all, you haven't played anything on the piano, and you're Michael W. Smith, and you're sitting at a piano. So if you could just do one of these songs that we're going to get to hear, just the sound of you playing some of these songs that we've heard all of our lives, Michael. Good Lord. It's just fantastic. Plus, I like theme songs under what I'm saying. I really enjoy it. If you could just keep playing, it'd be great.
Okay.
But I want to actually tell you something. You're effortlessly talking about hearing the voice of God in very important times in your life that were very directional for you. But a lot of people need you to unpack that. Wait a second. God is speaking. He's maybe directing your life, Michael W. Smith, by hearing the voice of God. That might be a new concept. Talk about that just for a second as it relates to really the story we're telling tonight.
Yeah. Well, it says, "My sheep hear my voice." You know, unfortunately, we've had some people say things that God told them that is completely insane. You know, that doesn't line up, and you always have to test that. You know, and I'm always real careful about, you know, saying in front of people, going, "The Lord told me." You know, I usually try to keep that under wraps a little bit, because if it really is God and what He told me to do really is from Him, then it will manifest itself in being something that is extraordinary and that I could not make up on my own.
But you're not backing up from the fact that it happened.
Oh, I'm
the
not backing up
Lord
at all.
spoke to you 3 times
Yes.
and directionally changed you musically.
I believe that with every fiber of my being. Yeah. And I still went on to do pop music. I'm still making, you know, A Million Lights and all this thing. I never know what record's going to come, you know, but that specific moment in the spring of 2001, there's no doubt. I know it wholeheartedly that's what happened. And, you know, I still try to go back and recollect that night, you know, those 3 nights of just going, I'm not one to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting up wide awake. When I go to sleep, I'm gone, you know, and it's almost like He was in the room. It's almost like He was in the room. And it was very, very profound. So then you have to look at the fruit of it. And again, when I say that, and, you know, a lot of people, they'll say, you know, boy, your record, you know, really unleashed the worship movement. You know what? I don't know if that's true or not. You know, if it did, I hold that very, very lightly. And I dare not take credit for any of that, because ultimately, I think He's the one who asked me to do it.
You know, for such a time as this, I mean, think about that time. I mean, people were devastated. It was a pivotal moment in time.
Yeah.
And look where we are today.
I know.
And I think it's for such a time as this.
Was it 1994 when Pope John Paul came to Denver, Colorado? Okay.
I was there.
Yeah, so were we.
Yeah.
And so
1993.
it was
World Youth
93,
Day.
Yeah.
World Youth Day.
World Youth Day.
And we
A
were
lot
there.
A lot of people.
Oh, my
Yes, it
goodness.
was.
Yeah.
And so, Michael, what just reminisce a little bit back. You've played for popes and presidents and kings, and we were talking off camera. You were, doing an event in Bahrain, and you've been doing this a while, okay? And what obstacles did you overcome? What was a really rough time for you that you overcame? Give us a little bit of the inside scoop of your life.
Yeah. Well, the success is just favor. I call it the favor of God. That's what it is, and why this little kid from West Virginia got to do what I get to do, I don't know, it's a calling. And I remember back in the day when I was, I'd start touring with Amy Grant. Not a bad way to start a career. And writing songs for
What year would that have been?
1982.
82.
So
Okay.
we were 39 years later.
My goodness.
And then writing songs for Age to Age and Straight Ahead. And then all of a sudden I'm cutting my first record and opening up for her, and the crowds were big. And, and so and I remember Debbie and I talking about, when it really started kind of get, the momentum was pretty, the wind was blowing really hard at our backs. And if you look at the entertainment industry and you'd look at sort of Hollywood and all that comes with being a quote unquote celebrity and the dangers of all of that. And I remember her and I had a conversation going, you know what? If you just look at it as a whole, there is a better chance than not that we could be a casualty. But we're going to say right now, we're not going to be a casualty, and we'll make every means possible that will never happen. So we just started laying ground rules. And I would never be away from my family more than 2 weeks, ever. I was never away from my kids more than 2 weeks. Even if I had to cross the pond and go to Europe and come back, I was never gone more than 2 weeks. Had the plane, came back, walk off stage, land at midnight, driving carpool at 7:15 in the morning. I did that for 13 years in a row. And I don't regret any of it. I married a great woman.
Yes, you did.
I'm celebrating actually 40 years of marriage in 3 days from now.
My goodness.
And which is
Congratulations.
crazy to even say that. And then our prayer group and our friends,
Yeah.
our tribe, whatever you want to call it, that I've just walked life with, And so I've invited those people, if you either do one thing with the platform. You either become a rock star or you give your life away. You got this platform. Wow, you have this amazing opportunity to change the world.
Yeah.
And somebody can even do that if you live in a small town. Everybody's got a platform.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So I've had the great opportunity to be able to do some great things. Believe me, I've had my moments of how many records did we sell and the pride factor and, taking Finto out on the road with me and, just keeping me accountable and all that sort of thing, and then inviting my prayer group, my team. Like if I would get the big head, if I thought that I started believing my press, they'd smack me around a little bit, They'd just go, dude, snap out of it. This is not about you. That's Finto. I might have told that in your story that I got busted at a big Halloween night. It was 6,000 people in Seattle, and these girls had gotten backstage and were hollering out my name and "We love you, Michael." And I remember just kind of had the old wave and just, I just was overcome. Oh, this feels great. And there's Finto tapping me on the shoulder. And I look around, it's Don, and he's going, it's not about you. Get over it. Like it was, I was busted. And he was right. And so and I think as you mature in the faith, you really do realize it's not about you. And you want to find those opportunities to go and, how can I change my block? What today? I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I can't change yesterday. I have today. what am I going to do today? How am I going to reflect the heart of God to people that I know and people that I don't know? I want to do that every day. And then surviving success. I think probably that might be my greatest, if I could say still married to this amazing woman, love my kids, love my grandkids, but I've survived success.
But interestingly, part of that success was a pop song called
Place in This World?
Place in This World. So, but when you think about it, Michael, part of what made you accomplish those things that you did was a place in this world. And so did God breathe on that song so that you would have this ability to play in, these circumstances and have this thing? Does God breathe on secular music, as it were, because that was all based upon Christianity? I mean, the place in this world is a song. So God breathed on that pop song.
Yeah, he breathes on a bunch of them, and those songs take you to places that you never think that you would ever be. I really love the pop thing because I found myself really, there's a part of me, I love the church and I love leading worship, but there's a part of me that loves to be in dark places, just to be a light in that. I asked Amy Grant and Wayne Kirkpatrick to help me write the lyric. I think I'd actually gotten a letter back then. Before tons of emails, I would get these letters. I had these great assistants. Most of them were women because I got lots of fan mail from girls who were suicidal, and I just needed somebody who was attentive and was a girl who could understand all that. And so I think one of those letters, if I'm not mistaken, just spilled her whole life story. It was just awful. And she said, I'm just trying to find my place in this world. Wow. And then getting that call one day, never forget, or reading that letter one day of that, this is obviously another girl who had heard Place in This World. And I pulled off of the freeway on Interstate 5 in LA and heard Place in This World on the pop radio station. And was on her way to take her own life, and pulled over and had a massive encounter with God right on the side of the freeway.
Wow!
What are the words? What are the words to the chorus?
Well, I love the chorus is looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world.
Yeah,
not a lot to lean on. I need your light to help me find my place in this world.
That song was commercially successful in a way that very few songs ever are. And you find yourself before presidents and, friendships at that level, and music took you there. Your calling took you there. Your gift took you there.
Yeah.
What's some special moment of some leader person that was impacted by your music that you know of?
George Bush Sr., he loved Friends. I sang for my supper a lot. Always had to sing that song.
Kind of like today, you kind of feel like you're singing for yourself.
Yeah. And then above all, but George W. would, number 43, he would always ask for that song when I was in the White House. I sang above all at George W.'s first prayer service when he first became president at the Washington Cathedral. Yeah. And they asked me to sing, and I knew it was all going to be sort of high church, and I wanted to, and I kept thinking, do I sing his favorite hymn? And then I was searching through a bunch of CDs and heard Above All, and I thought, that's what I'm going to sing at that prayer service. And so I sang it that day. But every time I was in the White House with W, he said, I want to hear Above All. Yeah. So that's, who knows how many times I sang that song.
We were in the National Cathedral that day.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great day.